computer, I would have missed it. And
Yeah.
here we go. So as soon as I see the button come on, I'm going to start.
Yep, it's recording.
Morning, Les.
Hey, good morning, David.
We're slowly getting better at this as far as the timing and figuring out all these crazy buttons. And we're talking about today about a pretty serious topic. So I'm David Hanscom, an orthopedic spine surgeon who really suffered through severe chronic pain for 15 years, including extreme OCD, which I didn't know I had for 10 of those years. And that's our topic today is obsessive compulsive disorder. And I'm excited about it because Dr. Ari is a psychologist and he has lots of clinical experience with LCD. I have way more personal experience than I like to think about. And Les, how are you?
Yes, good morning, everyone. And I'm Les Ari, I'm a pain psychologist. And what David and I were chatting earlier on, we thought it'd be helpful to bring up a topic called obsessive compulsive disorder and kind of tie that into how's that even related to chronic pain or things that we do in life. David, back at you, bud.
Well, one of the things about obsessive compulsive disorder, and Les and I have been on this road for a couple of years, is that we think there's a limited usefulness of most of these psychiatric diagnoses. So we're going to put out the classic definition of OCD, and then we're going to try to blow it up over the next couple of weeks. Is that it's a term, it describes a certain behavior, but if you start digging deeper into the whole definition in human behavior, everybody has OCD, 100%. It's a matter of degree. We talked about this ironic effect a couple of days ago, which I'm not going to go into today, but the classic definition of OCD is marked by repetitive, intrusive, disturbing thoughts. And that's the obsessive ruminating thoughts. And then the response is the compulsive behaviors, hand washing, cleaning, et cetera, except what I didn't realize that there's both internal and external OCD. So I had internal OCD, which is intrusive, disturbing thoughts marked by counter thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes on and on and on, and it's the most miserable experience in the world. So it's an extreme anxiety disorder, but I do want to remind the listeners, anxiety is just an inflammatory process. It's metabolic. It is not psychological. So the reaction that we call anxiety is a result of sensory input, with thoughts and emotions being one of those sensory inputs, and repressed thoughts and emotions are even a more disturbing sensory input. So you have these repetitive ruminating thoughts. They keep your body fired up. Remember, when you have anxiety, you feel anxiety. What are you feeling? You can think these thoughts, but it's that body's response to the thoughts that's such a problem. So before I turn back over to you, Les, I want to say one thing, and that is, I think OCD is it's not a very useful diagnosis. When we start looking at the whole world of mental health based on the physiology of the body, we're going to talk about that a lot. It's not that useful. So it's actually sort of damaging because when you start looking at it, when I was in the midst of the worst part of this, you feel very isolated. Like I'm the only human being with these crazy, bizarre thoughts. And we're going to discuss how chronic pain is a form of OCD. And again, we're going to try to get rid of that term. How body image disorders. So there's related diagnoses like body image disorders, skin picking, hair pulling, hoarding, eating disorders are all forms of obsessive thought patterns. But by the time we're done with this about this Facebook Live in a couple of weeks, chronic pain is an obsessive disorder because you have these ruminating thoughts. You talk about them all the time. And so back to you, Les.
Yeah, real quickly. And so, I always like to tie brain parts to the conditions. And I want to just briefly make two comments here, David. Wholeheartedly agree with you. And I wanted to add two comments. One comment is most people, when they think of OCD, they think of the worst of worst. We're talking at a broad spectrum. And then we wanted to add, where's chronic pain fall on this? So we want to make sure you guys hear us clearly. So we're not saying that people with chronic pain has OCD. That's not what we're saying. We're saying is, David was talking about an internal thing. Rumination, depending on the severity of it, rumination about something, about your pain, like, oh my gosh, that constant obsession about about your pain. Maybe the doctor's made something, what if I do this? That is a degree of obsessiveness. So the danger in that is that trips the switch of your fight or flight, the sympathetic system. And as I was telling David earlier on before we got on, that this is really important because it really activates something called the orbitofrontal and also your anterior cingulate cortex, and then your caudate nucleus. So there is science behind this. If you heard nothing but jargon, let me just simplify it. Front part goes to the middle part and circles. That's the loop. And with folks with chronic pain, when we get into this rumination of what I missed, it shifts us into catastrophic thinking, which it just explodes on the inside. It
Right.
increases your tension. So basically now we have just created an additional stuff. So this, sometimes I just want you to know, it's not your fault. It's how the brain is built. When we try to avoid something or we overindulge in something, it activates our nervous system into a fight or flight.
And it's a neurological trick.
Yeah,
And then the other thing was with programming, these thoughts become programmed in, they become independent spinning circuits that are not subject to rational control,
yes,
right? And so chronic pain, and again, we're going to really try to get rid of this word obsessive compulsive disorder, but I want to talk about like the doctor's missing something, there must be something wrong. Those are obsessive thoughts, period.
yeah,
And I found out over the years, I've never been able to talk one person out of them, and that's fine. And I used to get really frustrated about that. But
yeah,
then in my own experience, when I realized about these obsessive thought patterns, how severe they are, the suffering that takes place, that's one of the reasons that both you and I ask our patients never to discuss their pain.
yeah,
But I want to go back to one thing, and this is something I think most chronic pain patients understand. They get labeled, nobody believes them, their family, their doctor, society. They're labeled drug seekers, lazy, don't want to work, etc. They've done two research papers that I think are sort of profound, that the degree of suffering in chronic pain is equivalent to having terminal cancer, except it's worse.
mm,
Because at least with cancer, you know the diagnosis. In chronic pain, nobody's telling you what's going on. And
yeah,
we also found out that the mental pain is a much bigger problem than the physical pain. So you have all these unpleasant thoughts coming into your brain, but your body's reacting like a physical threat. And then
right,
the actual fired up nervous system or fired up adrenaline, cortisol, et cetera, actually increases the speed of nerve conduction, attacks the myelin, inflames the brain. And then the paradox is you start feeling the pain more. So
yep,
more pain, more frustration. And the degree of suffering, again, is equivalent to having terminal cancer. You are trapped.
yep. And maybe for the listeners this morning, David, I like to come up with acronyms, or I think you call it lessisms, which I think
Right.
is funny. So here's a lessism for everyone that and I didn't come up with, but it's been out for many, many, many decades, years, is what you resist shall persist.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, and you might notice that both Les and I are not quite as relaxed this morning because this is a serious topic for us. I mean, this is
Yeah,
big time stuff. And again, the degree of suffering with these repetitive thoughts, and even if they're not quote, well, they're intrusive. I mean, you want to enjoy life, have a walk by the
right.
park. And a lot of times what happened to me when I was in the middle of my ordeal is that when I'm on vacation or skiing or taking a walk or hiking, it's worse because there's nothing to distract me. When it got really severe, nothing would distract me. I mean, usually work would distract me. It got so severe with these incredibly vivid, intrusive thoughts, nothing
Yeah.
distracted me.
David, let's kind of make this more practical, because folks listening might go like, well, that's not me. And how about we make it a little bit more practical? Let me kick it off. David, we both have struggled sometimes with sleep stuff, and we have our methods of resolving it. And so whether it's chronic pain and sleep problems, right?
Right.
So have you ever experienced this, David, where you're trying to fall asleep and you're like, geez, Louise, I can't seem to fall asleep, and you force yourself to try to sleep? Has that happened to you before?
Yeah, 2 nights ago. Bad,
Right.
bad.
So the outcome of exactly what David just said is, the more you force something, or the more you try to, like, okay, I just need to get some sleep, the more you try to control something, the worse it becomes. When you're feeling a flare up, the more you try to avoid it, not think about it, la la la, I don't want to think about it, it actually gets worse. That's the message we're trying to send everyone, is to notice when you are fighting what is, when you can acknowledge what is there simply by doing, as David said, expressive writing, even saying thank you to the mind. And here's an added bonus, David, for everyone. And this is for you, just in case you have another sleepless night. I doubt it. Not as you've talked with me.
Right.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Here's a third one. This is a difficult moment. Acknowledging something difficult is less likely for it to continue. Admitting your difficult reality is one step towards reducing your suffering.
So the bottom line is that everybody has repetitive thought processes. And so it's normal.
Yep.
And a lot of people, it's more disturbing than they would like to admit. OCD is not the classic hand washing thing. It's just thought, kind of thought, but just ruminating thoughts are a problem. Then you have mental constructs that counteract it. That takes away energy. So we're going to try to get rid of the diagnosis of OCD and talk in terms of neurological circuits, thoughts, body chemistry.
Yeah.
Over the next couple of weeks, we'll start going into practical ways to actually calm all this down. And that's why Les and I are here, because we've seen so much success using these basic tools to change the body's chemistry and calm people down. As you calm down, this stuff resolves. So we're excited about it. And this is a deep topic, but there's many layers to it, but it's not that hard to solve.
Yeah, David, do you mind if I just jump in here real quickly? I know we're running out of time, but I wanted the audience to know one of the things that I will be walking them through in the 3-day immersion. Hopefully, we have the link put down, and folks can actually have access to what we're talking about. A 3-day summit that we're immersion workshop with the Open Center is I'll walk them through how to deal with their difficult thoughts, mainly the inner critic. I'll walk them through 5 steps on how to just work with it, to attend and befriend it versus to fight. So that's a skill that's very important as a lifestyle.
Right. These are just learned skills. And so thank you for reminding me. We have this 3-day workshop, May 21st to 23rd, actually not this weekend, but next weekend. And Les, myself, my stepdaughter Jazz, and my wife Babs will be putting on a workshop to really just get people connected and to calm down. We're excited about it. I'll put the link up on the Facebook. And Les, your material can be found at Dr. Les Aria.
Yes, you can find me at lesariaphd.com, or you can find me on YouTube just by typing Les Aria, A-R-I-A, in the YouTube channel. It's the mindfulness channel. And back to you, David.
And my work can be found on backandcontrol.com or the docjourney.com. And again, these is a sequence of just running you things that actually sequentially calm down your nervous system. So Les, we could talk about this for a while. We went a little bit over today, but this is a big topic, and we're excited about unwrapping it and showing people how to solve this over the next couple of weeks. So have a great weekend, Les.
David, have a great weekend, everyone.
We'll see you Monday. All right.